Alrighty. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about how you can 2x your covered call profits with the covered strangle. And the covered strangle is really a very good strategy, especially if you intend to add on more positions to a current stock that you already own. So what is the covered strangle? Right, so the covered strangle is essentially the combination of two option strategies. You have your covered call. Right, a covered call is essentially a long stock position, a long 100 shares, and you have a short call option against it, and then you have a cash secured put. That means that you do intend to get your cash secured put assigned so that you can long another 100 shares. So this is very different to the naked strangle, where you do not have this long 100 shares. And as for the strangle, it's more of a neutral position. That means you pretty much want your stock, right, the underlying stock, to stay in between the put and the call. But for the covered strangle, because we have a long 100 shares position, and also we do not mind getting long another 100 shares, right, if the price were to go below the cash secured put. So essentially the covered strangle is much more of a neutral to bullish strategy. All right, so with the covered strangle, it's much safer than the naked strangle, because if the stock was to suddenly just shoot up all the way to the top, well, in this case you wouldn't be that worried because you already have a long 100 shares, right? You have long 100 shares and you have a covered call positions. So in this case, right, you can just get your shares called away if you want it to be exercised, or you can just keep rolling your covered call up higher and higher. In this case, every time when you're rolling it up, out and up, you're always making more money because you are making more on the intrinsic value of the long 100 shares, right? But if you have a naked strangle, that means you just have a short call position and a short put position, well, every roll up here, or if you were to roll this up, ultimately you want the stock to come back down to the center so that you can profit. So it is a very different strategy, and the covered strangle, I feel, is much better for a longer term type of trade where you intend to hold on to these long 100 shares for a long time. So the covered strangle has three sources of income, right? So if you were to just do your normal covered call position, right, you would just only get the premium from selling this covered call, right? But if you were to sell the covered strangle, that means you were to sell another put option along together with your covered call, right now you have a second way for you to make money, right? When you sell the cash secured put, again, you get some premium for selling this put option. So in this way, you get double the profits which you normally would when you just sell just a covered call, right? So in this case, because we are using the same days to expiration, right? Normally we use the same days to expiration. The market can only expire in either of the direction, right? So if the market was to go up here, right? If you had just a covered call position, you miss out on this profit down here. So that is why this is an additional profit for your covered call, right? So if you sell the covered strangle, this will expire worthless and you receive the premium for that. So if you do plan to add on to the position, right, so this covered call strangle is going to be a very good strategy. So there's overall three income sources. The first income is by selling the covered call, and then you get your premium. Second income is by selling the cash secured put, and then the third income is from the intrinsic value gain, the capital gains from the long 100 shares, from the place where you entered your shares to where you sold the covered call, where you're going to get called away. Right now, of course, you can keep rolling this over and over again, and each time as you roll it up, your intrinsic value can just keep increasing. All right, so that's the beauty of the covered strangle. Alright, so when do you want to use the covered strangle? So as mentioned earlier, you want to use the covered strangle when you don't mind owning more shares of the underlying stock. So many times when we enter into a position, we do not want to enter all at one go. Let's say if you have $5,000 allocated to a certain stock, you definitely do not want to put all $5,000 in one go, right? You want to split them up to different tranches, right? To different levels. So you may split them up to 3 levels, to 5 levels, depending on how much capital you have for the stock. So when you do it this way, each time the market goes down, let's say if the market keeps going down, you keep averaging for a better price each time, right? Rather than you go in all at one shot at this price, and then if the market keeps going down, then you are stuck at a position where you have to wait for a long time before you can sell a covered call. But if you just enter one position at a time, you can always do a covered strangle, right? You can sell a cash secured put down here, and then you can sell a covered call above. So this way you're always trying to earn some income at the same time as the price. If the price does go down, If the price goes down, you'll be assigned on the cash account put. This way you lower your average price, so you get a much better price in the long term. So if you chose a good stock, this stock will eventually go back up and you'll be able to make more money on the intrinsic value gain of the stock. So this is also when you want to add more shares to lower the average cost of your overall position. Alright, let's take a look at some trade mechanics. So for the covered strangle, you want to be looking at somewhere around 30 to 45 days to expiration. Again, this is the optimal time for us to choose an expiration date, because that's when the theta decay will be at its most optimal point, right? It starts to really decay more around the 45 days mark all the way down to the 0 mark. 0 days to expiration. Next, you want to look at something around 15-20 deltas, because this is roughly around one standard deviation, right? One standard deviation marks where the market would most of the time expire in, right? Where the market, the price would be in. So for example, if you were to sell a covered strangle with roughly 16 deltas each, right? So this would basically be zoning out the price, the underlying price, that the market would most likely stay in between this zone, right, at expiration. So in this case, each time, let's say it does expire inside, you make the full profits on both the covered call and the cash secured put. And in this case, you can always just keep selling the covered strangle again to just keep collecting premium and reducing the overall cost basis of your stock. So remember, this is a covered strangle, so you will always have 100 shares of a stock. Right, now next, you can take profit at 50% of the credit received. Now this is optional, right? You don't really have to do that. So let's say if the market is to stay in between your covered call and your cash secured put, and during this time a lot of the theta has kicked in and it has depreciated the options value to the point where you can take 50% off, you can choose to do that, and then you can reinstate the covered call and the cash secured put again at the 16 delta points again. Or you could just simply just leave it to either, you know, expire worthless in between, or if it goes up, right, you can choose to close, you could choose to have your shares called away, or could just roll your covered call, and the same place also your cash secured put, right? So these are the adjustments. So you can roll out and up your covered call. Let's say if it goes above here, right, if it breaches your covered call, you can choose to roll it, and then you can get more intrinsic value gain on your 100 shares. Or if the stock was to just go below your cash secured put, right, because you already intended to get long anyway, to get assigned another additional 100 shares, you can either just leave it to expire worthless, or you could choose to roll it down, right, out and down, and then get a better price, all right, for your cash secured put, right? Better price for your second batch of 100 shares, right? If the market continues to go lower, right? So let's take a look at a trade example, and I'll go through some scenarios with you so you understand how to manage the covered strangle. All right, so this is the stock of Google. So let's say we are long 100 shares right now, $120, right? Let's say we are long $120, 100 shares. So at this point in time, what we want to do is want to sell the covered strangle. So the covered strangle is selling a call option and selling a cash secured put. So in this case, right, we have chosen roughly around the 16 deltas. So if the 16 deltas that we chose, you notice is roughly about the same distance between both of them, right? So in this case, it's about 20 points up, right? 20 points up to 130. Oh, sorry, 10 points up from 120 to 130 is 10 points up, and then 10 points down to your cash secured put, making a total of 20 points of your covered strangle, right? Also notice that although the delta is the same, right, where you're choosing roughly around 15 to 20 deltas each for the covered call and the cash secured put, the put option actually receives more premium than the call option, and the reason is because there is put skew, right? If there's put skew, then you would get more premium for your put option, and if there's call skew, you should get more for your call option. So put skew is basically where the volatility is higher on the put side than on the call side for put skew, right? For call skew, it means your volatility is higher on the call side than on the put side. That is why for options which have a call skew, you will notice that the call options will be worth more. So in this case, we're able to sell the put option more because there is a put skew, which means the market determines that there is much more risk to the downside, right? So that is why they have increased the volatility, that normally when stocks fall, they fall faster downwards, right? So this is the covered call, the covered strangle position which we have on. Right, so let's take a look at a few scenarios, and there are 3 in total. So let's say for the first scenario, Google was to go above $130 at expiration, right? So if Google was to go above $130 at expiration, right, it will be above our covered call. So what happens? Right, so the covered call gets assigned and our shares get called away at $130. We're long at $120, we get our shares called away $130. That's $10 in intrinsic value gain, right? In this case, we also get the profits from our cash secured put, because our cash secured put now expires worthless. Remember, they both have the same expiration date. So our total profit would be the covered call premium which we receive, which is $115, right, total. Cash secured put premium is $145. Our capital gains is $10 since we have 100 shares, total of $1,000. So this gives us a total profit of $1,260, right? So $1,260. So for this covered call, of course, right, if the market is to go above and you do not want your shares to be called away, you can always just roll your covered call up, right? You can roll it up over and over again, right, depending on how much credit you can get each time that you roll. And I've already covered this in my other videos where I talk about covered call rolling, so you can go ahead and watch that video at my channel. I put a link right at the top right hand corner of this video. But this is essentially scenario 1. So in our sense, because the covered strangle is a neutral to bullish strategy, this is actually the most favorable scenario for us, because we get out of all this position with a very nice profit, especially where the main driver of the profit is this 100 shares over here. Alright, so let's take a look at the next scenario. So the next scenario is if Google is in between $110 and $130. That means it stays in between the covered strangle range, right? So it stays in within here. So what happens if it stays in within here at expiration? Well, if it stays in within the covered call and the cash secured put at expiration, then our covered call expires worthless, so we receive the full premium through that. The cash secured put also expires worthless, again we receive the full premium. So in this case, because we still have our 100 shares, right, depending on where it is, right, if it's above down here, above where our entry price is, then we have a slight profit on our shares, but we're still holding on to it. If it drops below our entry price, then there will be a slight drawdown, right? So in this case, our profit would just mainly come from selling the two short options, right? The short call and the short put. So in this case, our premium would just be simply what we collected. The profits will be just what we collected from the premium, which is $115 plus $145. That gives us $260. Now, what do we do after the option has expired worthless, right? So let's say, yeah, that's expired worthless at this point of time. If the market, let's say, is somewhere around $126, let's say this is the price mark where the market expired at. So in this case, you can actually just sell another covered call. Maybe you can sell at 130, or you could sell at 16 delta, and then you get a higher covered call price, right? In this case, do you want to sell the cash secured put? You could sell the cash secured put, but bear in mind, if you sell the cash secured put, your 16 deltas will now be slightly closer to where your previous entry price of the 100 shares is, right? So let's say if you choose a 16 delta, so this should be an equidistance from this price down here to all the way up here. This should be equidistance because it's both roughly 16 deltas each, 15 to 20 deltas, right? The thing is that your cash secured put right now will be much closer to your entry price for the 100 shares. Now, whether you want to sell this here or not is really a decision you have to make, right? I would rather not sell this, because if I do want to average in and add more shares, I do want a lower entry price. I would prefer to have my cash secured puts stay at the same price which I sold previously. But if I were to sell it right now, chances are that I will not be able to get a higher premium than what I did previously, because right now it's further out of the money. So in my case, I would probably just wait. I would just sell the covered call first, and if the price subsequently dropped to a point where I can sell the covered call, I will sell the covered call again. So in this case right now, if I was to wait for the price to drop before I sell a cash secured put, you'll see right now that the distance between the covered call and the cash secured put is right now bigger, right? That means you now have a wider covered strangle, which helps you increase the profit or increase the probability of profit of your covered strangle. That means it landing in between these two zones. All right. So at the end of the day, it is up to you to decide. Now, what if the price actually is somewhere down here instead, right? If the price is expires around 114, this price, which is below our entry price, right? In this case, I would rather just sell a cash to call put at 16 delta and get a lower price, right? I'll sell a cash to call put down here. Probably I'll get roughly the same premium which I sold previously, which I got at $1.45, selling at a roughly 15 to 20 deltas again. And similarly, right, I do not want to sell a covered call right now, because if I were to sell a covered call right now, chances are that I might only be able to sell it somewhere around here for a 16 deltas, right, to get roughly the same $1.15. This way, if the market is to shoot up suddenly, then the intrinsic value gain, you know, it's not as much as what I would originally intended to be. But of course, you do get the premium from selling this covered call. So in my case, I would rather wait for the price to go up first before I sell a covered call to re-establish this $130. So this way, same thing as previously, you notice that there will be a bigger or wider zone for the covered strangle to profit in. All right. So this is a decision that you want to make for yourself as well. Alright, so let's take a look at scenario 3. What happens if Google goes below $110? That means it goes below our cash secured put right now. Right, so for us, because this is a cash secured put, that means we do want to get along 100 shares. Is actually a good thing for us, because we do want to add in more shares, lower our average price, and in the long term, if the stock market, right, if the stock eventually goes back up, we start to earn much more than we would if we were to just long this 100 shares. So what do we do if the price goes below this 110? Well, let's take a look. So first of all, the covered call will expire worthless, so we will be selling, we'll be collecting the full premiums on this covered call. And then your cash secured put gets assigned, and we are now long another 100 shares. So at this point of time, this will be our average price, right? So now we'll be long 200 shares at a lower price at 115. Okay, so our total profits again just comes down to the premium which collected for our covered strangle, which is a total of $260. Now, there are a few things that we can do if you do not want to get assigned. So let's say, for example, if the market was to come down to this point, right, what we could do is we could just roll the cash secured put down, right? You can roll the cash secured put down to get a better fuel price if you wanted to, right? Of course, you do risk the market suddenly bouncing up, and then you do not get long at the price if you had just let it assign at a 110. But if you do want to get a lower price, you can do this. You can roll down and out. Again, I have a video all about rolling short puts. You can go and watch that as well. I put a link at the top right hand corner of this video. But you can just keep rolling it down over and over again until you can reach a price which you're comfortable owning 100 shares in, right? Either owning 100 shares when it's assigned, or when the market goes back up and your cash secured put expires worthless, and then you can start to sell your covered strangle again once it goes higher. All right, so what do you do once you are long 200 shares? All right, let's say now you are long 200 shares, you let your cash secured put get assigned. Well, there are three options that you can do. Right, the first thing is that you can simply sell a covered strangle when the price goes up again. So if the price goes up again, right, this time it goes to your average price of the 200 shares, you can start to sell your 16 delta covered call, a covered strangle, right? So you have a covered call and then your cash secured put. Right, so that is one option. Second is that you can just wait for the covered call, right, to sell the covered call when the price goes up. So when the price goes up to your average price, then you can sell the covered call just by itself. Right, or you could just simply sell another cash secured put lower at this point of time if you do intend to get another 100 shares of this stock. All right, so remember, you want to split into several tranches. But if you, let's say you have already hit the limit, that means you have already allotted all the funds that you have already allocated for this stock, you do not want to add anymore, then what you want to do right now is just simply hold on to your position. Right, the only thing you can do right now is to hold on to this position. The moment it goes up, right, you can start to sell a covered call again. Right, you can sell a covered call above your entry price. Remember to always sell your cover call above your entry price. This way, when it goes up, right, you will ensure that you will always be making a profit on your shares, rather than, you know, you sell a cover call below your entry price and then you risk, right, the stock suddenly shoot up and then you are being trapped in between. You're being trapped with a lower exit price because of your cover call. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, and also please subscribe for more videos like this. Last but not least, I appreciate your time for watching this, and may the options favor you.